I'm making this video to go over some thoughts related to bureaucracy and the women's movement. And I'm sort of the context for this, oddly enough, is the music industry in the period 1980 to present times. And when I was growing up, there were notable female artists who uh, certainly, I would say, were pioneers in pop music. Examples: Madonna, Bjork, Kate Bush, uh, and there were female DJs who were certainly at the first order or the first level. Lisa Lashes, uh, and I can't think of another female DJ at the moment of that at that level. But the thinking was that there were certainly a few female artists in music. I would say between the years 1980 and 2000, and then after the year 2000, I would say maybe even after 2006, with the advent of 4chan, there was a sort of a process, slow or fast, by which it seemed the female artists basically disappeared, and that female innovation in the music industry was not happening in pop music or electronic music, and that these industries, these music industries, fell back on a sort of a male innovator style. And there was actually rhetoric on the internet to the point, asking, are all the good musicians male? Uh, and why was this? Because this was not a phenomenon or an experience that was really natural to many people, because they had been raised in an environment where there were female innovators in music. So the question then becomes: was this childhood experience just a fluke? Was it just a sort of an eruption of female talent that was not recognized since, and was perhaps not even on display before? So that's the context for these remarks. My view is that one aspect of the women's movement in the 20th century can be traced back to Max Weber's observation that the rate of work in a bureaucracy regresses to the slowest rate that goes unpunished by management. So this is kind of the root, or maybe one part of Max Weber's theory of bureaucracy. Now, bureaucracies, at least traditionally, I would say in the 20th up until the middle of the 20th century, were populated by men, and the hypothesis I have is that the women's movement was, to some extent, a recognition that the bureaucratic lifestyle was not suitable for men, that it was not making men happy, that working at the slowest rate that goes unpunished is not something that men find natural or appealing. And in fact, it was a contributor to male suffering and malaise and frustration and disappointment, and that it really hurt men to a great degree. And furthermore, that this bureaucratic law, the slowest rate that goes unpunished, is in fact none other than the ordinary law of nurturing and mothering, which is to say that the correct rate of nurturing and mothering is the slowest rate that goes unpunished. That is to say, anything faster will be considered insanity by the nurtured, by the child. And that in fact, what you observe in the child nurturer, child mother relationship is the child punishing the mother when the rate of nurturing drops below a rate that would cause harm, or at least not necessarily harm, but discomfort. I would even just say ordinary discomfort for the child, and that there's a complex negotiation of the timing of punishment that the child deals out to the nurturer, to the mother, and that this follows the bureaucratic model, so that in fact women are natural bureaucrats. In fact, and men are not natural bureaucrats. And that women naturally understand the organization of bureaucracy as a nurturing style of activity, and that women find themselves relatively easily adaptable to this kind of a situation because it mimics or resembles the mothering situation or the mothering context. And men just find it intolerable to arrive at the slowest rate of work that goes unpunished, because men are much more naturally inclined to disrupt this situation. So they find it quite unnatural to work in a bureaucracy. So I would describe the women's movement as intelligently assessing this I would say this, the male gap, or the male deficiency in not necessarily competence, but in balance or happiness or harmony with the role of with the bureaucratic role. So I see the women's movement as surgically and intelligently sort of cutting open the bureaucracy and allowing women to fill a role where they are naturally better equipped to achieve fullness and fulfillment. And so in many ways, I see the women's movement as supplying raw labor to bureaucracies, which up to that point had been trying to fit men into a nurturing, mothering role that they just didn't naturally fit into. I think this is a really interesting point. What is the future of male work if it's not going to be as part of a democracy, part of a bureaucracy, if it's not going to be this slavish attention to the slowest rate of work that goes unpunished. And I think, in my view, men are natural leaders and natural innovators, and that this kind of excitement and energy is something that responds much more naturally to the male profile. So that those and that that is an area where in a sense men could be pushed out into from bureaucracy.